Jim, that's what it is. Jimmy. I knew it. Fuck.
That's why you go to the gym in the morning. Clears you right out.
I haven't been to the gym, that's the problem. Jimmy unfortunately had a family emergency and some bad things happening in his life right now. I guess you guys can cover that better than I can, but unfortunately couldn't make it. He's fine, but yeah, so he's not with us. But Justin is here.
He's not dead.
No, he's not dead. He's not even sick, so. But anyway, don't be shy. Like I said, they do have to leave in about 35 minutes. So we're just going to jump straight to questions. And raise your hand if you have questions, and don't be shy.
Come on, guys, you can do it. Otherwise, this Q&A is really slow without questions.
Super psyched.
Hey guys, how are you? Oh, I'm Wally from Connecticut. What do you have in store for 2016?
What a good question. Is that a plant or what? Yeah. Actually, it's just gotten very, very busy, I'm happy to say. As soon as we finish here, we've got about a week to sort of get our pre-production notes together. We've got 4 shows in the UK, 2 with the Dan Reed Network as co-headlining, which I'm very excited about, and a festival and 1 show of our own. And then with the band sort of firing on all cylinders, we're going straight into the studio to record a new album. So, yeah, I'm very excited about that. So that's the start, and so we're doing that in Rockfield Studios in Wales, which has pretty much had every great band that ever was. Rush, Black Sabbath, Queen, Oasis, they've all recorded there. And so it's a big deal for us to be back in such a big recording situation. Full studio, full producer, empty wallet, but that's the way it goes. And we're hoping to have that released for, shall we say, October, November, and that will coincide with coming out and doing the full tour. As you know, this is one of the few places where we're doing, because it's the 25th anniversary of Don't Come Easy, we're playing the whole album. In the end of the year, that's going to be the theme of the tour. We'll be playing all that, and then of course throwing in a couple of extras and some new ones. So busy. We've got festivals online for a few different things. We're playing the Bang Your Head Festival in Germany, which is a very big deal for us. We've not done that one. So yeah, lots of good things.
More questions. Don't be shy, guys. I have a question. How the hell did you end up living in, was it Spain?
Yeah.
How did you end up living in Spain, and do you speak Spanish?
Very badly. The second answer is I know a lot of nouns and I know how to point to things and name them in Spanish. But the simple answer how I ended up in Spain is a woman. Yeah, luckily she married me, so I'm staying.
But do they speak English? Is there
not so much, you know? I mean, and it's funny because I remember growing up in New York, I wish I'd listened more because there was Spanish everywhere. And as a New Yorker, you always say, hey, learn the fucking language, learn English. Now it's my turn, you know? So I can't say anything if I don't get my Spanish up to scratch. I'm the bad guy.
I find that fascinating. Of course, you guys are all over. We've got, what, 2 Australias? 1 Australia? No Australia?
Okay, you can go now. He's done his homework. We've got New Jersey, Staten Island originally, the UK, London, now Atlanta, UK, just off of London.
So you came from the UK?
And Chicago, right?
You live in Atlanta. Did you learn how to speak English then, or?
You don't want to learn English in Atlanta.
No.
It's not good.
Claremont Lounge.
You're a bunch of wankers.
Hey! About fucking time. He never leaves his room.
Drummer from Britney Fox, everybody. And Doro.
The stars come out, you see?
That's right. This lovely couple here, remarried on the ship last year with Danny. We went to the room, he sang a song for him after we did the vows. I was a little wasted.
Hi guys, Wendy from St. Louis. What is up with the name Tyketto? How did that come about?
That question always goes to me. When we first started out, we were living at my mother's house in New York, and my father owned a couple of buildings in Brooklyn that we had no money, so we would go do various paint jobs and cleanup jobs. And the subject of the month was what to name the band. And one was, oh my God, there was a circus we could have been called. There was another horrendous name. What was it? They were terrible. The short list was horrible. So we were driving home from a day of painting, Brooke and I, And when you go through Brooklyn to get to Staten Island, you drive through one of the worst neighborhoods you'll ever see in your life. And we took a detour off the highway because there was too much traffic, and we saw this handball court with broken glass. Looks like nobody had played handball on it in years. Shattered glass everywhere, ripped down fence, and it was just graffiti, just Tyketto across this big, huge wall. So Brooke actually spotted it and was like, that'd be a great name. Okay, let's try it. Took it back to Jimmy and Danny, they loved it. So it was officially born with no name. Brooke was insightful and somewhat illiterate because we went back to take a photo of it and it was Tyketto with an F. So now we really have no idea what it means. So there's no name, there's no meaning to our name.
With the discovery of the internet, did you ever Google the Tyketto?
The closest thing we came was some dialect of Spanish, was I think Tyketto, which means to desire someone. So we'll take that.
Good question. Who's next? Come on, folks. Kansas City. All right.
So speaking of the painting and whatnot, what was the worst jobs you guys ever had?
Oh, that's good. Let's run down.
Great question. Worst job they ever had.
This is the best.
I'm not sure it was the worst or the best, but I was a therapist in a psychiatric hospital for 4.5 years. So I put people in straitjackets for a living before I put people in straitjackets for a living.
I had about 35 jobs before I was 25, and the worst one out of all of them, I had to work in a potpourri factory. Just dumping handfuls of this shit in bags all day, and I'd have purple hands. I think I had purple hands for about 3 months. It sucked.
Mine's not as funny, but I was working as a forklift driver at a textile mill for many years, and between the amount of cotton dust and the noise, it damn near killed me. It's the worst thing I've ever done. I have tremendous respect for people that can go and work at jobs like that.
My worst job, I've had a few, but my worst one was putting the cherries on top of cream cakes in a factory for 8 hours solid, and they just came coming past you about 20 miles an hour, and if you missed, that was it. It was gone forever, so that was not good.
It's like I Love Lucy.
I'm pretty easy. I never had a job. So
you
this is
go.
the first time I've ever done. For me, it was working in a mailroom. It was probably my worst job ever, having to answer to about 300 corporate people. That's about it.
Thank you.
I guess I want to know Jimmy. I remember Jimmy from back when I was DJing at nightclubs in the Lower East Side, and he used to come and hang out and get wasted and things. That's where I met him. But he's good. Everything's. When's he coming back? You know, I mean, tell me this Jimmy story.
Well, let's keep it as peripheral as possible and just say there's some illness in his family and he needs to be close to home at the moment, and that's what's going on. He himself is fine, and you know, it really tore him up not to be here. But when you're out at sea and away from your phone, and you need to be there if the phone rings.
So we'll keep our thoughts with him,
Absolutely.
even though he's not here. What else? From the lovely lady back here in the left corner.
Come on, Sue. What do you want?
Now they're worried. What other band projects have you got on the go outside of Tyketto?
Start down there.
She must be Australian.
Let's see. What else we got on the go?
Well, it's kind of a loaded question for me, as you know, but I'm still working with an Eagles tribute band in the UK called the Ultimate Eagles that is getting bigger and bigger and does a lot of theater tours. And in August, it looks like I'm going to go to Prague and start writing songs with Dan Reed. We've got this kind of three-way acoustic idea that we want to do, sort of Crosby, Stills and Nash-ish, but not exactly. And with another gentleman from Norway named Augustin Nilsson. And he's asked me to come and do some writing. And since Dan and I are touring again this year, doing our acoustic duet thing, it seems like it's going to work out real nice. So we'll see where that goes. So that's exciting.
We're still running the booking agency. We do all the business with Tyketto, my company, and we just started a record label this year, and we picked up the guitar player that's currently playing for Bon Jovi as one of our clients, and he's releasing an album this summer, that will actually have Bruce Springsteen singing on the lead single. So in addition to Tyketto, we've got a very busy music and business year coming up.
I do a lot of lead guitar session work on people's albums, one of which I'm sure you'll hear about in a minute. The main thing I've got coming up is I have an instrumental album, kind of shredding lead guitar stuff, and that will be coming out hopefully sometime in the summer. It's taken a while to get that together, but I'm very excited about that. It's doing stuff like that stops me putting too many notes in all of the other bands that I'm playing. So I'm looking forward to that instrumental album. Look out for it.
As Chris has just touched on, we're actually doing a couple of albums I think we've got released over the next month or so. Both myself and Chris are on an album by a guy called Chris Easy, which is going to be released next month. Chris did some of the lead solos, I've done the backing vocals on that album. And then Chris was really kind enough to play a lot of the solos on my Rage of Angels new album, which is out this week. So that's getting really good reviews. Chris absolutely tore that up a storm, so that was good. So yeah, we've got a few things. And we've got the Cooking with Rockstars cookbook, which is out as well, which I did a recipe for. So make sure you look online for that, or everything goes to charity.
I'm just doing some session stuff around Chicago. There's a couple of local bands out there. Work with some band called Love Blast out there. I did a little bit with Brandon Gibbs over last summer. It's kind of a higher gun here and there. Just whoever asks, I'm there.
Hey, this question's for Danny. I bought shit when you said you're 54, but I think you sound as good today as you did when you were 24. What have you done to do that? Because not a lot of singers sound as good today as they did 20 or 30 years ago.
He kept the same drummer.
Hey, Michael, I missed that. What did you say?
Michael said the reason I sing so well is because I haven't changed my drummer in 24 years. There is some truth to that. I think there's a certain amount of luck in it, but one of the first things I think about is that I haven't toured as hard as some guys have. You know, I mean, if you think about Bon Jovi's been going out, 6-8 months a year for decades. It's going to take its toll, no matter what you do, no matter how much care you take. So there's a certain amount of this. Part of the answer is that I'm not that famous. That's helped. But just taking care of it, do what you can. I had a very recent scare about 3 years ago where I was diagnosed with a form of acid reflux, where the acid is actually splashing on my vocal cords, and I was unable to sing for about 3 months. And it was, like taking my heart out of my chest. So that's part of the getting old part. You've got to adjust. So it's a lot to do with diet and messing about, and a lot of stuff that's quite boring when you list it. But couple that with a little bit of luck, same drummer, it all works out.
But he also takes care of himself. I see this guy in the gym every single morning, and that's important. A lot of these guys are out until 6, 7 o'clock in the morning partying, and then they sound like shit the next day. Well, yeah, no wonder. He takes care of himself, which is good.
Having said all that, I now have to go sing at 1:15 in the afternoon, which is not a very good thing. So I could suck today. I don't know. We'll find out.
So the follow-up is, what do you have to do to get ready to play in 2 hours? Now.
I'm sorry, say that again?
What do you have to do to get ready to have your set in a couple hours?
For me, everybody's got their thing mostly. For me, I've definitely got to find about 15 minutes and just do some scales and warm-ups. And it's like any other muscle. You have to sort of stretch slowly and get it a little more flexible. Actually, doing this really helps. Just talking and opening it up and all that sort of thing.
Cool. I'm on a roll. After the record, any U.S. tour plans? The odd thing with Tyketto is after the Strength in Numbers record, we obviously hit the UK and Europe, and we've always had an amazing US base, but obviously the US is so large, it's in a lot of small pockets, so it's very hard for us to really go on the road. With half the band being overseas, it's logistically difficult. So we really save the American stuff for things of this nature. We're talking to a festival or two in the U.S. for this coming summer. M3 was a huge hit for us last year. But to really get the band on the road, it's a near impossibility at this juncture. We're going to keep pounding the UK and Europe, but just besides some of the big festival appearances, it might be a while, unfortunately.
There she is.
We'll try.
I got a question, Jed. Where'd you get your boots?
Yeah, these aren't boots. I was born with these. That's bare feet. Chris said that to me yesterday. He said he's never seen me without these boots. And we've had showers together. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. These are a really cheap-ass pair of boots. I would love to say these are $1,000 pair of boots, but I probably got them for about $60 in Windsor, where the Queen lives. Yeah, maybe they'll have.
So if each of you could play with any musician, who would it be?
Whoa. Easy. Really, it's a family show. Anybody got an answer to that? I got to think. I do. Yeah. All right, you start.
Hands down, I was playing Queensrÿche in a fucking heartbeat. Awesome band.
Well, fair enough.
I was very disappointed Queen didn't call me. So that would have been my choice, is just to audition for that. That would have been fun.
I'm still not speaking to Pedro Plant for not getting the invitation to join Led Zeppelin. Absolutely.
For me, Whitesnake. You know, if I met the keyboard player in Wembley a couple of months ago, and I did try and break his wrists very subtly, but didn't work.
I'm playing with them, so Tyketto.
I think we need to take a second just to explain how Justin kind of came to be with this. Like Luke said, Jimmy, he came to my office maybe about a month ago, was very, very visibly upset, almost to tears, about not being able to do this. Danny and I and Jimmy kind of made an agreement that we're going to do this purely because we love it, and it's a family in every sense for us. So when Jimmy said I'm a phone call away from having a very bad experience with my family, we understood it, which left the four of us to go, who's playing bass on this cruise in a month? So we literally, Jed was going to play bass at one time, and it was a real mad scramble, and Chris recommended Justin, and we went with it at the time for basically lack of other options, and he came prepared, professional, he was optimistic about it, he's a fan of the band. We had booked a very lengthy rehearsal a few days ago. We're going to have to do this 4 times in a row with the new guy. And he killed it, absolutely crushed it. One shot, we went through the set once, and we were good to go. So thank you very much. Yeah, family members drove to rehearsal. It was wonderful. So thank you for that.
Hey guys, first of all, y'all are awesome. I'm sure you know that, everybody else does. But with all the different life experiences you've seen and done in your travels, if you could change just one thing about yourselves, what would it be? Each of y'all answer.
You mean like a character flaw, or change something in my career?
What happened? If you want to change your,
Probably not a good time to talk about the character flaws.
Anything. She said even to the boots. If you could change
Okay,
your boots.
if I could change one thing,
Why would you do that?
I would have tried to get into music college earlier. I went in 94, and I had the opportunity to go in 91, and I kind of felt like at that time the music scene was still, for this genre, was still kind of going. By the time I went and came out, it was all ready to shred. No one was doing solos anymore, so that's the one thing I'd change. I wish I would have gone into college and taken it seriously a little more quickly.
My answer is going to be a little weird. Because I thought about it, and for one thing, I'm just one of those lucky people that's in an awfully good place in my life, and, you know, happy to be exactly where I am and who I am. Always was not the case. And I remember having a discussion with Melissa, my wife, and think we were talking about our previous relationships. My previous marriage was a nightmare to end all nightmares. You know, let's just say it involved firearms and stuff there. And I remember sitting thinking, God, all those years wasted because I couldn't see. You know, we all go through that. And my wife, who is, you know, just the best person in the world, turned to me and said, I don't know. She said, perhaps if you hadn't gone through all that stuff that you're now regretting, you wouldn't be the man that I'm in love with and married to. So, in a sense, I don't want to change anything.
I think don't have regrets. If you change stuff, things will be different now. So, you know, just learn from the past and try and make it better in the future. I think.
I'm on the same page as them. You know, the stuff that you do wrong in life, it's all seeds that help us to grow into who we are and where we're at now. Really, not too many regrets. I'm happy to be where I'm at right now, right up here with these guys.
To be fair, he is young yet.
Is he legal yet?
Danny and I get asked that question a lot. I think, as you guys all know, knowing this genre of music, we're, to a large extent, considered the band that almost made it. We came as close as you could be to going over the top, and it made us reassess a lot of things. And I echo Danny's words exactly, because people are always asking us, like, Geffen would have released the record 6 months ago, would this have happened or that have happened? And I fully agree with Danny that we're sitting here now, we're getting along better than ever. People are saying we're playing better than we ever have. We both met our wives from Tyketto. My son wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Tyketto's path. As odd as it was, if it got us to this very moment, we're right on schedule. This is where we're supposed to be.
For me, it was not playing the lottery when they had the big, you know, jackpot. I probably would have won. That's my regret.
The guy with the Def Leppard tattoo.
Arizona.
Cool.
Yeah, Arizona. Back to the beginning, pre-Tyketto. How did you meet?
Actually, that's a bit of a circle as well. And that's another thing that I love about this cruise is being as most of my friends do this for a living. We don't see each other as often as we like. I mean, Johnny D just ran by jumping in, and you know, Johnny and I started, we met in a band called Wasted with Pete Way, and that was 1985 when that started. So the introduction here has to do with a dear friend who is also on the ship, and I haven't seen in 15 years, is a gentleman named James Lamenzo, who has played bass with pretty much every great band there is, but started with White Lion, which is when we knew each other. James and I were neighbors in Brooklyn, and we met each other because we passed each other, and then two long-haired guys that just didn't look right in our neighborhood. Eventually we decided to say hello. And we were friends ever since, and I had gotten back from a tour with Wasted. White Lion was just finishing up their album, and James called me and said, listen, I'm in the studio right now. We're working on a drum demo. We're cutting a song, but there's a drummer who's going to be submitting this for Whitesnake, because they were looking for a drummer. This would have been about 87, I think, 87 or 88. And he just said, the singer's not working out, everything else is great, would you come down? It's a Cheap Trick song. I'm like, hell yeah, I'll sing a Cheap Trick song. And so obviously it's leading up to, the drummer is Michael. And what cemented for me the friendship was that day, because even though we were busy doing other things and had no plans to work together, we came in and showed me the track. I went up there, and I remember, I don't know him from Adam. I've just come off tour opening for Iron Maiden, right? So I'm feeling pretty full of myself. Went in there, blasted out the song, felt good about it and all that. Mike comes in the control room and says, man, that was really great, man, loved it. I think you could do better, though. And that's when I knew I loved him. You know, it was just like, because that's been our relationship ever since. I don't like cutting vocals unless Mike's in the room, because he always knows just a little bit better than I do what I can do. So that's where that started. With the rest of Tyketto, Brooke was found through an audition process, just getting the word out. This, of course, pre-internet. So you got guys saying, I know a guy, and tapes coming in, you know, guys sending naked pictures and all sorts of evil stuff. And Brooke was recommended, and the tape came. I was like, hell yeah. And Jimmy and Michael have been friends for a good long time.
Actually, Brooke had to change his name when he moved, because when you live in Wisconsin and your stage name is Brooklyn, that's kind of funny and cool. When you're in Brooklyn and your stage name is Brooklyn, you're going to get killed. So he had to become Brooke St. James. Jimmy, to this day, I mean, I'm in my 50s, he will always be my kid brother. We met in a band before Tyketto. We were playing together from the time he was like 17 years old. So he kind of came along with me, and Brooke ended up driving from the Midwest in a Camaro that had his amp, a guitar, boots, and a plastic nativity scene. Those are his worldly possessions, and we never quite understood why. Tyketto was born that day.
I have a question. Which bands are you looking forward to, or have you already seen on this cruise that blow you away?
Last night, I finally saw Steve Vai, and I've not seen anything like that before. That was such a wonderful experience, such a musical experience. It's great that we all come to see the shred and the technique, but that's not what blew me away last night. What blew me away was the musicality and the expression and the soul that was involved in what all those guys were doing. So that was a big one for me. I stood on the same stage on the beach yesterday as Akira Takasaki. That was also a very sobering experience watching him play. You know, fantastic. I'm still looking forward to seeing Vixen, whom I have not seen yet all these years. So that'll be a great catch up for me.
I saw Gothard last night, who they were awesome. So yeah, them, and I still got to see Extreme, so I'm looking forward to that.
With Jed, being from the States, and some of these bands don't come over ever. Gothard was definitely, that was the big one, and they killed it last night. They were fantastic.
There's actually a band called Hardcore Superstar that are going to be playing, that are a great band. My old band, which was called Pride back in the late 90s, we got a chance to play with them. And they're a really, really good live band. So if you get a chance and you can stay up, you should check them out. Apart from that, I did get to see Steve Vai last night, and I have to say, there are a lot of guitar players, shredders, whatever you want to call them on this boat. But when you go and see Steve Vai, it's like an entirely emotional experience for me seeing him play. Somehow he manages to actually kind of talk through his guitar, as part of him. So without getting too spiritual about the whole thing, that was an absolute pleasure too. But Hardcore Superstar, go and see him.
For me, when they first asked us to do this 3 years ago, the main reason I signed on to it was to finally see YNT live, because I've been a YNT fan for decades and decades. And we've been fortunate enough to become friends with the guys. They come to our shows and we play, very supportive. And we were talking about it last night at dinner, that he is Davis singing as good as he did 30 years ago. Seeing them playing live, I was very pleasantly reminded what an unbelievable guitar player the guy is as well. So it's always a pleasure to see YNT every year on the boat, absolutely.
Sort of on that same train of thought, where does the Monsters of Rock cruise rank as far as like the history of all of the world's most badass shows? In other words, put yourself 15 years from now looking back on this cruise and the previous, you've been on three cruises now for these guys. Is this the greatest thing that's ever happened to rock and roll? I mean, to me it is,
As I didn't get the check yet, I'm going to say absolutely. This is it's unbelievable. It's an opportunity for the bands to get this, like Danny said, this is kind of like a high school reunion for us to a small extent. I love the fact that the artists are right in there with the guests. The accommodations are top shelf. It's run like a clock. The rooms are fantastic. The staging and the production. I don't think people realize how many live stages there are on this boat. There's a full sound crew for each stage. There's backup drum sets, the PA. This is an ordeal and a half to put together. So I think in the things we've done, I'd say it's probably one of the top, absolutely. It's run perfectly.
Just going to say, because they're back there, the guys from Steve Vai's band, thank you guys for last night. That was an education and an experience, and I'm so glad I got to see you. It was awesome. Back to Luke. Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, with us, as we keep saying, we came to this level, we didn't quite break through the ceiling, so we're kind of this little underground band that could, and we're still here 25 years later. The beauty of the cruise, to me, is not just having, like, it's like a high school reunion with the bands that we came up with. I mean, I remember doing a gig with Extreme when we played together, and Nuno said to me afterward, I said, man, you guys were fucking great. He's like, yeah, we'll probably be opening for you next year. You know, so we came from that level with a lot of guys, with Skid Row, with the Bullet Boys. We were all kind of coming up at the same time. What's unique and wonderful and so memorable about this is we get these wonderful personal touches that you can't do in a touring situation. You just can't, because you're backstage, you're fairly well protected, or you got get on the bus somewhere to go. What Luke mentioned earlier, I mean, you know, I got to sing for, was it 25th anniversary? Yeah, 25th wedding anniversary. Just went into their chalet and showed up to sort of oversee the thing. And the best part about it is I saw your face when I came around the corner. And it's great stuff like that, and little personal bits and interaction, because especially with the way the music industry is structured now, selling music, or however you want to put it, is, to me, it's door to door. So it's face to face. So every single person that you meet is important to who you are and why you're able to play. So that's what I love most about that.
For the crowd, anybody here in the crowd, the first time they saw Tyketto was on one of these cruises? Anybody? See, look at how many. You get a whole new audience because of this thing. Isn't that great?
So just to add to that, I think this whole Monster Rock cruise thing has been a real game changer for the genre as well. Getting so many bands on one boat, and like Danny was saying, where everyone can actually interact, just bump into the bands, whether they're eating breakfast or having a drink or something. It's a real interaction with the bands. Also, what I think is a really good thing is because it costs an absolute fortune to have data, no one's really fucking around with their cell phones all the time on the boat, which is great. It's nice to actually see for a change. Apart from Mike.
And no DUIs. Okay, I got Johnny from the Killer Dwarfs here. He wants to ask you.
What's up, man?
Hi guys. 10 o'clock tonight at the, what is it called? Their Spinnaker Lounge. We'll be there.
Go see him.
I got a question about Iron Maiden. You guys toured with Iron Maiden. How significant was that to your career afterwards, after the tour, and did it help you out with getting any gain on the rock and roll business?
Well, sadly, just to correct you, it was just me in a previous band in Wasted. You can't.
Which Maiden tour?
Somewhere in Time tour. You can't put a gauge on how important that was. One, they're the nicest and most easygoing guys in the world. They gave us everything we needed to make our shows work. They were very supportive. And there was a lot of personal interaction. So, I mean, anybody that's been in a band will tell you, and you'll know, there are other bands you open for that don't do that. You know, and cut your lights and cut your sound and fuck with you for reasons no one can ever understand. Iron Maiden is not like that. So it was a big step, because that band kind of taught me my craft, if you will, of being a front man. I watch Bruce every night. And I'll tell you a little secret that's kind of funny about Bruce. If you're a Bruce Dickinson fan, think about this for a moment. I had been very, very nervous about working with them. And so got into a really nice conversation with Steve Harris about, you know, opening for Iron Maiden is never easy, because they don't really want to see you. They want to get to Iron Maiden. But we were discussing, like, you know, how Bruce had come along from the Samson days and all that. Because you know what? He says, I made Bruce sit down and watch film after film after film of Ian Anderson, and Jethro Tull. And if you look at Bruce, he would do that, you know? It's all Ian Anderson, minus the flute. So it's kind of like we pass this knowledge on.
Well, they do have a show to play, which I assume you are all going to. And let's not forget that this cruise is quite possibly one of the greatest things that's ever happened to not only rock and roll, but to ourselves. So have a good fucking time. Give it up for Tyketto.